brings together two former champions coming to us from Edinburgh, Scotland, 134.5 pounds, wearing plaid trunks, former lightweight champion of the world, and eagerly waiting the opportunity to avenge that defeat, which occurred right here, is Ken Buchanan of Scotland. His opponent comes to us from New York at wearing green trunks at 139 pounds even, 2 times former lightweight champion of the world, once holder of the junior light welterweight title. Favorite here is Carlos Ortiz. The third man in the ring at this time is Mr. George Coyle. 10 rounds.
For a couple of hours, so he was pretty angry about that. So Ortiz never beaten in the Garden ring. It's up to Buchanan now to try and get the center of the ring and make Ortiz circle around him, use up his legs a bit. 69 fights now, Carlos Ortiz, so he may be carrying just a bit of lead in those legs at 36. No doubt about it that Buchanan stays in tremendous condition. He's only had a short notice for this fight. And he came in at 9 stone 8.5 pounds. That's almost his best fighting weight. Referee there, friendly tap on the back, is Georgie Coyle, New York State Commission appointed referee, of course. I think the thing to look for is Ortiz trying to use the left hook. That's his favorite punch. And he's waiting for Buchanan to lead with him with that long left hand and try to counter with a left. He almost did it there, but it was only a tap blow to the head. They're coming up then to the end of the first round, scheduled for 10. So there's Ken Buchanan getting the treatment from the American trainer Gil Clancy, who also manages Emil Griffiths, twice champion of the world, and Buchanan's father on the outside of the ring there. But Ken, of course, is now self-managed, and he certainly talked himself into a rather lucrative fight here. $25,000 plus all expenses. So there's a man who knows his way around, of course, Carlos Ortiz, never beaten in the Garden ring. So the range finding's over then in the second round for Buchanan and Ortiz. Both former lightweight champions of the world. A lot of pride at stake, and a bit more, I think, for Buchanan, because he really can't afford to lose to a veteran like this if he's hoping for the return fight here at Madison Square Garden with Roberto Duran. Ortiz, in fact, made the comeback because he didn't think Buchanan was a particularly good champion, or his predecessor Ismael Laguna, and he's had 9 wins in that comeback and stopped 8 of those opponents. I'd say that Ortiz using this experience of his now to try and tame the youth, although a youth at 27 knows his way around a bit. Amateur champion, British champion, of course, a title he didn't lose, and then world champion. Ortiz, I think, can match the Scot for left hands, but he isn't as quick. But he certainly bangs hard with that left hand. That's always been his favorite punch, and Ortiz has never been knocked out. I think the way this referee keeps getting on his bike there and getting certainly out of the picture all the time, and I think even more so out of the way of the punches coming his way. That's a dangerous punch there for Buchanan, because Ortiz pulled him on to that punch. He really made a bit more impetus with that. That's an old pro trick if ever I've seen one. So there's half a minute to go then in the second round. And it may be that Ortiz is trying to make Buchanan fight his type of fight. So that isn't make-up there, of course, for Buchanan. That's just a little bit of grease around the face, help him to slip a few punches. And Emil Griffiths, very good trainer there, although, of course, Buchanan had some good tutoring from Eddie Thomas, his former manager. Is looking as though he's saying, come on, get those hands moving a bit faster. So round 3, and just in case you've just joined us, it's Ken Buchanan, as you would expect, in the tartan trunks against Carlos Ortiz, both former lightweight champions of the world, and at this stage looks to me as though Buchanan's pepped up the pace a little bit and should be a little bit too quick for Ortiz. But on the other hand, he can't afford to hang his chin out at all, because Ortiz can still punch. The last thing a former champion loses, of course, is the strength of his punch. He may get a little slow, but he can still hit a bit. Ortiz now trying to maul a little bit to try and slow Buchanan down to his standard there. He just can't get around on those toes as much as he could. For instance, when he defeated Dave Charney in England back in 1958, he certainly looked up on his toes a lot more than this. You could tell by the crowd that they liked that punch from Ortiz, but I don't think Buchanan did. He just dropped that left hand there as he was going to lead to Ortiz's body, and the old pro there shot the right hand punch over the top. Suit Buchanan better to really stick to that boxing, using that left hand as he is there and trying to do a bit of dancing with it. He stands and slugs with Ortiz. He could run into trouble. You can almost see Ortiz saying, "Why don't you stand still? I want to hit you," but Buchanan won't have none of that if he can help it. That's almost the place on the ropes there in that same position where Buchanan was hit that low punch by Roberto Duran, the punch that actually caused the Scot to lose the World Championship. So coming up then to the end of round 3. Carlos Ortiz there actually fancied himself as a political independent candidate here in the Bronx. He's Puerto Rican born, but has in fact lived in the Bronx, New York since he was 9. 69 fights, 161, and he stopped or knocked out 31 of those, and he's been a pro since he was 19. Well, you don't often see a barber in the corner there. That's a new one with me. He hasn't got all that much hair. I think I'd be a bit embarrassed if somebody combed mine with only that bit there, but there you go. It stopped him getting in his eyes. So round 4 now, and the pattern well set between these former lightweight champions of the world, with Buchanan realizing that he's got to use his speed the whole time, because Ortiz slowing of legs but can still hit a bit, and he's trying to pull Buchanan onto a punch now and again and trying to use that right hand counter over the Scot's left lead. I think perhaps dragging a bit of weight off of Ortiz at the weigh-in today. The self-managed Buchanan insisted on that. He got a pound and a half off because he was overweight. May have dragged Ortiz down a little bit and slowed him just that much more. These are the dangerous moments for Buchanan, when Ortiz mauls away like this at close quarters and pulls out every stroke in the book. official betting odds for this fight before the start was 2-1 on Buchanan. You notice there Buchanan didn't back into those ropes. That was the mistake that he made against Roberto Duran. He's trying to make up for that here. But of course Ortiz isn't pressuring as much as Duran did. Ortiz started as a flyweight, boxed in England representing New York boys against London Federation of Boys Clubs, and won against a boy called Georgie Guy. Well, you don't often see a swing and a prayer coming from Buchanan, but he tried that big right-hander to the body there. So half a minute to go in round 4. And certainly Buchanan doing well now in close quarters is showing that he doesn't have to have all the long-range skill, and he's begun to outpunch Ortiz a bit close in. There's a bit of trouble here now for Buchanan. He's got a cut around the right eye. He had the left one badly cut against Ismail Laguna. So a little bit of problem there, as you can see, for Ken Buchanan, as the American trainer Gil Clancy just tries to staunch that bleeding. That really will be a blow if Buchanan loses a contest with a cut, and the referee has called the commission doctor over, Edwin Campbell. No, it doesn't look as though Campbell is going to let him go on. He's shaking his head there. This really will be an upset, and the doctor is going over to the referee now. So we'll have a look at that replay in the 4th round. I don't suppose you can see the punch that caused the damage. No, they're rather pleased they both heard the bell. It's been cleared up now, so Buchanan can come out for the 5th round. The action of the doctor there went over to the referee, suggested that he may not come up for that round. So the halfway stage now, and we have Ken Buchanan just boxing under this handicap of a cut around that right eye, which certainly caused the New York State Athletic Commission doctor a bit of concern when he went across the ring there and had a look at it. They don't do that in Britain, of course. Doctors are not called in the corner to inspect any injuries. That's the sole discretion of the referee. But they've staunched it very well. The injury isn't giving Buchanan any trouble in this round. From Ortiz corner, leave them fight, but I don't think the referee can stand for Ortiz mauling too much like that. No, there's no trouble now for Buchanan's eye. It's only just seeping a little bit of blood. There's no real danger there. I can imagine that Buchanan, having taken this contest at late notice, is just missing that little bit of training spark. He tried to do a sort of weekend crash program here in New York. That's a little difficult, of course, and he had a very tough fight for 13 rounds with Roberto Duran here in June. So right at the end of the round, inevitably, Buchanan's eye just starting to bleed again. And this rough stuff here from Ortiz is not going to help the Scot at all, of course. So it's up to Buchanan to really get up on his toes now and try and keep away from all the rough stuff. It's not a bad punch there. Buchanan trying to throw that uppercut now and again. That could cause a bit of damage. Round 6 there, and Buchanan's trainer had a word with the referee there. I think he's complaining that Ortiz is coming in with the head a bit dangerously. They're certainly patching that cut-eye of Buchanan up very well between rounds, but that's the sort of thing he can't risk there at close in quarters. He's got to watch that. Thing is, with Buchanan, when he's fighting a man of Ortiz's experience, it isn't easy to get away from him on the ropes. See that Buchanan is trying to pull himself together there, shaking his arms around, trying to get some tempo going. He really is going a bit slow, Buchanan, for his kind of speed, and this of course is suiting Ortiz. You may say that Ortiz is dragging him down to his speed level. That's one way of keeping Ortiz's head up anyway, to use these uppercuts. Referee seems to be getting there and making himself almost into a wrestling match. He should be doing this by word of mouth rather than having to push them apart. So half a minute to go in this round, and there you can see, of course, Buchanan starting to step this pace up, as indeed he must. He realizes that if he stands there and just looks at Ortiz, he'll get hit, but he can pick Ortiz off a bit with the left hand. Ortiz there just checking what round it is. I don't know why he's shaking his head like this. He's probably saying, well, I don't quite know how to handle this fellow. It looks as though he's got a bit of arm trouble, and arguing with his second, I think. He really looks distressed, and the referee's coming over, Georgie Call, saying, what's going on here? No, he stopped the fight. I thought he would. It looked to me as though Ortiz said, no, I've heard a hand or an arm. Well, that's the most disappointing end there, but it's certainly a satisfactory one in many ways for Buchanan. I think Buchanan saying to Ortiz, what's gone wrong? And it looks to me as though Ortiz has hurt a hand, and the doctor is up in the ring to look at it. So technical knockout, they call this in New York, but we would call it referee stops contest.